Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Regenerative Business Podcast. We are starting off a new series on the podcast that is just I'm so excited about. And this is going to be the Radical Riches series where I posted on Instagram and asked for all of you people who saw the post to elect or highlight people who were wielding wealth as business owners to make change in the world. Not just talking about wealth being good, but using and funneling wealth into making change. And all these guests will be coming from you guys. But our first guest in the series is Heenali Patel, who is an ancestral business coach who works specifically with women of color. I have so much to talk about today. Just pulling things from your public body of work. And I'm just oh, so excited to jump in.
Thank you so much, Sam. I'm so excited to be here and so grateful to those of you who put my name forward to have this chat. That really means a lot to me.
Oh, and I should probably mention that your brand name is Sacred Weaver, so you might know her
Yeah,
under that name.
yeah, yeah.
So just to start this off, I wanted to highlight some really juicy one-liners that you've been sharing. And I'm let's unpack these really juicy one-liners that you've been sharing. So one of them was the next time an activist or healer calls you greedy for having high ticket spaces or selling online, they're playing into the hands of toxic corporate capitalism. So I want you to define what that means. And also let's share some shame stories.
Oh my goodness. Wow, we're just diving right in. I love it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I really love that question around articulating what toxic corporate capitalism
Yeah.
is, because I think it's actually a really important distinction to make,
Mhm.
especially within the entrepreneurial world. A lot of people just rant against capitalism, but it's well, actually, we are existing within an economy that
Yeah.
allows us as business owners to actually exchange our goods. And that's essentially what capitalism allows us to do. That's not the thing that we are attacking here. That's not the thing that we're trying to dismantle. The thing that we're really wanting to focus on and dismantle is toxic corporate capitalism, which is a very specific form of capitalism where the basic ideology is profit over people. That's essentially what toxic corporate capitalism is. And it's an ideology that has been adopted by huge multinational corporations that often have more money and more power than nation states that have essentially been enacting a form of neo-colonialism under the surface without most people's attention, without most people knowing that that is what's happening. But it's still all over the planet. It's happening all over the world, particularly in countries of the global majority of the global south. And this is the form of capitalism that we are actually needing to dismantle. It is essentially an ideology of profit over people. I could go on and on. So
So good. I love this distinction. I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast, so this is so valuable.
yes,
Um,
yes,
and I
yes.
mean, let's do another definition around neocolonialism for people.
Yes, sure. Yeah. So colonialism as an ideology is something that most people are familiar with. It's basically an ideology where one dominating culture will go in to conquer a land and the peoples of that land and essentially overlay their own systems of law, their own culture, their own governance on that land and those people, usually pretty much always to the detriment of the people who were native to that land. And there are all different degrees of colonialism. There are different stages of colonialism that can be happening. And obviously, in the world today, we're seeing some forms of colonialism at the extreme end. But there are other forms of colonialism that are actually much more rampant in the world that we live in, which are being enacted by corporations as opposed to governments of states. And that is essentially what neocolonialism is. It's a reiteration of colonialism, but it's often being enacted by corporations that have more power than a lot of nation states do.
Mhm. Oh,
Yeah.
so good. So with this, because it was interesting when I first reached out to you to invite you on, right after this post, I was looking at your stories. I mean, okay, what's this woman's story? What's going on here? And you had shared about a recent event where someone, I don't know if it was someone close to you or if it was just like a straight up stranger on the
Yeah.
internet, and
Yeah.
saying that it was essentially bad for you to be charging for your work or charging high prices for your work. So what happened with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, totally. So I think the really challenging thing about that particular context was it was from a former client who I'd worked really closely with. And I guess the real takeaway for me from that situation was money triggers the shit out of people.
Yeah.
And even if you've had a really close relationship with somebody, you can kind of get to a stage in your own money journey where this snagging happens within relationships with other people, and it will just activate people in all these weird ways. We live in a world where money is this real point of contention for most people, and all of these things will just get projected onto you. All of these stories will just get projected onto you. And one of the things I've really had to learn, especially about that particular situation, was I really just have to be okay with being projected upon. And I really just have to be okay with being judged in that way and just let it happen, actually, because trying to control situations like that is going to take so much of my energy that could actually be redirected into creative
Mhm.
energy. And I think that's just a very core lesson that we as entrepreneurs just need to learn and be okay with in this space, you know?
You know, it's interesting. I feel like I've been really served and helped by the current US election season we're doing because of this, because people feel so strongly pro-Trump, pro Kamala, pro neither of them. And just with bleeding hearts, I will lay myself on the ground for this. And it's 50-50 right now, which is nuts in my mind. But people are feeling so strongly on both
Mm,
sides. And this is it, as you become a public figure that stands for something that's not just vanilla being like, I sell coffee, you know?
yeah.
Like
Even coffee
you,
can be contentious.
yeah,
Like,
oh yeah, totally. But you being a public figure and putting yourself out there and putting your true work into the world and your true mission to the world and trying to change the world through your business, people will
yeah,
hate you. People are
yeah,
going to hate you.
yeah,
And also
yeah,
people are going to love you. And it's not even how do we avoid it? It's almost better. It's
yeah,
better if people feel extremely strong about it. And I remember even years and years ago hearing Tim Ferriss talk about this before I had any success in my business. Just I remember listening to him talking about you don't actually want to be this middle ground. Like
yes,
you want to be
totally.
this provocative thing. And that's true to our
Yeah,
souls. Maybe it's just a manifestor thing, but I
yes.
don't think it is.
I don't think it is. I think maybe it's more extreme in some manifesta stories, but
Mhm.
it's funny, isn't it? Because intellectually, I think we can know that and we can hear it from other people, but it's like the felt experience of it lands so differently in the body. And that's the point where you really
Yeah.
do have to just make a decision about which pathway you're going to go down. Like, are you going to be the person that continues to please others and try to mold your voice in a certain way or squeeze into these rigid roles and ideas? Or are you just going to be the person who just really just goes bleh and lets it all go and like lets it all out? Like, it just gets to that point and you feel it in your body. You feel like you're at the crossroads in your body and you just have to make that decision. And it's like, it's as simple as that in the end.
Oh, so good. This is why I want to be having these conversations because the community aspect of course, get yourself into communities with people who are believing the beliefs and holding the standards that you want to have. But even I
Yeah.
know in my growth, being able to listen to podcasts, listen to audios, listen to
Yeah.
trainings of people talking like this, because sometimes in
Yeah.
your physical environment or even in the online communities you're in, they have
Yeah.
different thoughts and they're in a different place than you actually want to be. So being able to like keep on tapping in. I know you have a online membership, so I'm sure this is the kind of thing where your people are able to tap in.
Yes, totally, totally. And also just going back to the activist healer theme around that kind of judgment or shaming and that those stories that can come up in those spaces. So my background is in racial equity campaigning. I was in that for a decade. And being in that space, you just I realized just how much people were just ranting and raving against the system,
Yeah.
but weren't actually resourcing people to claim the level of prosperity and power that people actually need to claim in order to be able to dismantle these systems.
Mhm.
And it's almost this very simplistic thinking. It's like, oh, well, if we want to dismantle, a lot of the time they're just saying capitalism, but let's say toxic corporate capitalism. If we're wanting to dismantle toxic corporate capitalism and it's about profit over people, then we need to shun profit altogether. And it's like, no, that's not quite how this works.
Yeah.
Like, you can claim money, you can pursue money without it being attached to a colonial ideology. That's totally possible. And in fact, we're living in a time where people with liberatory visions
Mhm.
are feeling this call towards entrepreneurship because there is this great remembering happening. This is where the ancestral piece comes in for people to begin to forge new pathways when it comes to wealth, when it comes to actually finding new ways of being in entrepreneurship, being in relationship with profit. And, I just kind of feel like a few of these spaces, like of healers, activists, they've kind of missed the points a little bit.
Yeah. I love this because environmental activism is my,
Yeah.
and it's so interesting the shadowy nature of it, especially because people
Yeah.
are so in favor of nonprofits. And then we listen to the name or listen to the
Yes.
nonprofits, but it's
Yes,
this weird
exactly.
dynamic that's anti profiting, anti money, but also we're asking people for money. Like,
Yes,
what a
exactly.
weird little stew.
Like, can you imagine what damage that does to your nervous system? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, this is the reason why I work specifically with women of color, because a lot of the time, these conversations about anti-racism and bringing down colonialism are happening in a context where it's actually constricting the body more.
Hmm.
It's not inviting people to actually claim power.
Yeah.
It's inviting people to tear down power, but then not have any way of actually resourcing themselves to create something new. And so that's a lot of the reason why I do the work I do now, because it's like, no, we need to find new revolutionary pathways. We need
Yeah.
to find new ways of understanding this.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So this was a direct question I wanted to ask you, so I'm glad we're here. Which is like,
Okay.
why do you think it's important for women and especially women of color to have financial sovereignty?
I love that question. Yeah. So, one of the reasons why I love working specifically with women of color is because so often they are the ones that have been inhabiting the in-between spaces. And they've really had this kind of, I think we all have in different degrees and different ways, but women of color, they have this very lived experience of the colonial systems that we've been living under, and toxic corporate capitalism is basically just an offshoot of that. And so actually, when we do the work of inviting new revolutionary pathways into the bodies of women of color, what tends to emerge are expressions of innovation. We really open up the horizon for how the whole collective can go, because we're really tapping into bodies that understand the lived experiences of these systems that we're really all wanting to dismantle. And I think there's so much power. It's just really fulfilling for me at a personal level to see when women of color really tapping into that, because a lot of the time, and I think this is true for a lot of women in general as well, we don't actually know what it's like to claim power from a place of true desire and joy and pleasure and hope in the body. And one thing I would say is there's a reason why Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. He didn't say, I have grievances, I have nightmares. He probably did have all of those things, but he said, I have a dream, because he understood that anchoring people into hope, into joy, into pleasure, into desire was the thing that would actually move us forward and shift cultures and shift the collective. And that is essentially the work that I can do with women of color, and that's a beautiful thing to be able to witness.
So I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer that. Like this is probably a whole can of worms. But you said a couple of times revolutionary pathways, and I'm like,
Yeah.
are we talking somatic? Are we talking like actual tactical? What does
Because,
that actually mean?
oh,
And what is opening revolutionary pathways?
I love this question. Yeah. There's so many ways to answer this question. Like, yes, it is somatic in the sense that we are opening up felt experiences of pleasure, of joy, of desire in the body. And that's definitely a form of sovereignty that we are tapping into at a felt level. But revolution also means that we are tapping into a remembering process. So part of my orientation with business is so many of us are being called into entrepreneurship because this is a pathway that our ancestors followed. We all have craftspeople, artists, healers, merchants in our bloodlines. And often these people were engaging in systems of exchange that were removed from colonialism. We go far back enough in our bloodlines, we will find that. And many of us, especially those of us who are being called to entrepreneurship through an artistic or justice-centered lens, my kind of perspective on this is we're being called into this by our ancestors.
Mhm.
They are echoing in our blood. They are literally reverberating through our blood and our bones.
Mhm.
And it is part of our role to allow this conversation to begin to happen again, for us to actually remember where we came from and the storylines that live in our body, and then to re-express that out into the world. And this is a process I call ancestral innovation, because we're tuning in to this process of remembering the body of work that already lives in us, the artistry, the forms of exchange that are already known to our body, but then we are choosing to re-express it through our voice, through our lived experiences. And that is essentially a very innovative process. It's also a revolutionary process because it's tapping back in to a form of reimagination and a way of moving us as a collective towards new paradigms, new ways of being in exchange and being in community. So yeah, I could go
Oh,
on forever. So.
good. Oh, yeah, I wanted to go down this path. I've heard so many people talk about ancestral work, but it's
Yeah.
never something I've really dived into. Except recently, a friend, peer, I did an ancestral reading with her. So dipping my toe in the water.
Yes.
I feel like I'm asking you at level zero, which I think is useful. Like maybe everyone listening is far beyond me, but I have level zero questions.
I love it. Go for
So,
it.
because some of the stuff that you're sharing is really this business as ancestral medicine and ancestral remembrance to guide business, and you've started telling us about that. And I'm
Mm.
curious with this process. I'm guessing it's more of this like somatic channeling versus like I need to do some research to check what my ancestors were doing, or is it a little both?
Yeah, it can be really different for different people. And sometimes what can happen is as you are in the kind of more internal processing of it, information can start to come. So that's what happened for me, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, also just to say, Sam, like even if you haven't necessarily attached the word ancestral to it, I can see that you've actually been deeply engaged in ancestral re-expression in your work. So there are particular like what I call archetypal storylines that
Oh,
run through our, I know, such a fancy phrase,
I know, I
right?
want to hear more.
That run through our bloodlines. And there are certain patternings within our lineages, and there's basically four different archetypes, four different storylines that we can be called into. And usually it's those archetypes that can actually really guide the spirit and structure of the business that's wanting to
Oh my
emerge
God.
from
Are
you,
you willing
right?
to share what these are? I'm dying to know.
Yeah, so I have a quiz. I actually have a quiz where
Oh,
you can
fun.
find out.
Okay, well,
Yes,
we'll
and
put that in the show notes for sure because I will be taking that immediately after this.
everyone loves a quiz,
Everyone
right?
loves
Yeah, what your archetype is incredibly, I would say obvious, but you'll probably take the quiz and it'll be something completely different to what I think it
So
would
let's
be. So
test you. Let's test you.
Yes, okay, yeah. Of all the four different archetypes, the one that feels really true for you
Oh,
and
wait, no,
your
no. Tell us
journey.
what the four are first. For everyone.
Oh, are we going to do that? Okay, yeah. So there are four different types. So there's the poet,
Uh-huh.
the prophet,
Mm.
the pioneer, and the progenitor. I love alliteration. So yeah, yes. And they all kind of stem from different ancestors
Mhm.
who we all have like parts of these archetypes in
Yeah.
us, but there are certain ones that reverberate
Mhm.
stronger at different points in our lives and business journeys. And they each are calling us on a different journey, a different way of understanding the structure of our business and the way we're here to actually move forward collective liberation in the world. And the one that really rings true for you, at least from my perspective, is the progenitor. So the progenitor stems from ancestors who have been connected to the land. So usually they are connected to plants, they're herbalists, they can be midwives. They're often really connected to kind of hands-on work, like literally hands in the soil kind of work. And what is so beautiful about the progenitor, and I really see this in your work, Sam, like it's actually incredible when I think about how clear that pattern is for you, is really being here to remind people that systems are based on patterns that we see in nature.
Mm.
And a lot of us as a collective have come to understand systems as something that's inherently hostile, that's
Mm.
connected to like mechanistic things and depletion of the body. And because that's often the reference that we have within our cultures, the progenitor is really here to guide and support people into remembering that we can actually begin to create systems that mirror the patterns of nature, and that actually the originator of systems comes from nature. But I just see that so strongly
Well,
in your work,
it's
obviously.
it's really cool because I mean it's gonna be funny if I take this quiz and it's like not
Oh
that.
my
'Cause like
goodness.
there's a part of me that's like, am I just so systems oriented because it's like a trauma response to my neurodivergence? Like there's a part of it that's true. But with this ancestral session I did, it was the ancestors that came through were so proud of the work with the land and
Yes.
being like, we have work alongside the land and build these communities and
Yes.
bridges in
Yes.
alignment with nature in the land. And we're so proud of
Yes.
you for bringing this forward through our ancestral line. So that feels like you're right.
I literally have full body chills listening to you say that. Like that's a sign that there's some truth landing there. And yeah, the progenitor is a builder who
Mhm.
brings communities together and finds ways to actually create organizing principles,
Mhm.
essentially.
Okay,
I
so
love
I
it.
want you to give like a little, like a one liner for each of them. Let's make this useful
Okay.
for everyone.
Okay. Yes, and please go and take the
Yeah,
quiz
definitely
because
take the quiz.
you'll get a 15-minute audio transmission from me, just
Oh,
laying everything out and how the structure and spirit of your business wants to emerge from that place. But
it's
yes,
sacred-weavers.com slash
sacred, sacred-weaver.com ancestral innovation quiz.
okay.
I'll send you the link and maybe you
Yeah,
can
yeah, we'll
put
find
it
the link.
somewhere. This is kind of long-winded. So yeah, the three other archetypes. So the poet, which is basically connected to our ancestors who are storytellers and guardians of the imaginal realm.
Mm.
So I'm talking about ancestors here who were the ones to paint on cave walls as ways of really tapping us into the power of human imagination and really tapping us into connecting to our emotional landscape. So that's the poet. The prophet. So the prophet is here to really remind us of the power of surrendering to death and rebirth processes in our lives and how we actually get closer and closer to our divinity the more we allow death and rebirth to happen over the course of our lives. And the pioneer is here to support us to expand and move towards new horizons, to really explore radical new ideas. So I did the quiz on myself, and this was my
I was
archetype,
gonna
right?
ask.
Yeah. So the pioneer is here to really bring forth new ideas that can potentially be quite controversial, but they're here to create frameworks for people to really understand previously undiscovered territory, essentially, right? Explorers of the mind and the body. So yeah, those are the three other archetypes.
So good. Oh, that's so fun. I didn't know this was gonna come through, but I'm so glad.
No, oh, I love
So
it.
fun. Okay, so coming back to, I'm curious with, because you had mentioned earlier that us as entrepreneurs, all of us have this ancestral connection to entrepreneurship because it's a
Mm.
part of all of human history. And with that, what medicine and like in
Mm.
connecting back to that, what sort of medicine can we bring forward?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And, I think a lot of us have been called into stewarding a business because the business wants to be a vessel for ancestral healing itself. And I'm
Ooh.
sure I mean, you can definitely relate to this. We have so many initiations on this pathway. So many things come up. And the piece that I guess I just want to bring to the table is often when we're stepping onto this pathway, we are being invited to desire more. We're being invited to imagine more for ourselves and to really reach towards that horizon. And when we do that, what also tends to happen is there are certain ancestors living in our body who come up, who have been carrying certain stories, who have gone through certain lived experiences in their lifetimes that cannot be carried forward into that imaginal realm, cannot be carried forward into that desire because there's incongruence there. And so what will happen is our business will present certain challenges to us, certain initiations, certain invitations, where we will essentially need to bring up that story, shine the light of our consciousness on it, and actually learn to sit with it and not allow it to control our actions anymore, and actually step into a space of choosing new ways of doing things, making different decisions in spite of that story being there. And the more and more we can do that, the more the unweaving process happens. And that is a process of healing that reverberates through the bloodlines. It's not just you that's healing your fear of rejection, you're healing it for so many ancestors that have been holding on to that story. And at some point it was a highly justified story. It was a situation of life or death at some point, but you are the one who is bringing healing to that entire bloodline of ancestors who carried that story.
Oh, so beautiful. And now I'm really curious with you starting to charge higher prices. I'm assuming there was a before, like you didn't just come into
Yeah.
business with higher price. There was like a before time, and that's why there was a reaction to this of like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, higher prices, now you're bad. What
Yeah.
was that? What was the switchover? Was there a point of a realization or a memory? What happened that actually was like, I have to just actually charge my worth, or not your worth, but like
Yes.
charge a
Yeah.
worthy price.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I was charging like £35 for, I don't know, which is like $50 for a 90-minute session. That was like the very beginning of my business. So yeah, there's definitely been a journey. For me, the moment really, really landed. I mean, it was definitely a gradual process, but where the conviction really set in was, so part of my journey has been like, so I need to kind of go back and kind of give you a bit of a backstory
Yeah.
here. For all the backstory. So I'm a British Asian. I was born in England and I've grown up in England. And part of that experience has really been a sense of being disconnected from my ancestral lands. I lost the capacity to speak the language of my ancestors when I started going to a Western and English speaking school. So really, there really was a process of losing, forgetting my ancestry in a way. And probably a lot of people who, women of color or women in the diaspora or listeners tuning in with those kinds of experiences can really relate to this. But when you come from an immigrant family that has moved into a dominating culture that's in the West, there's this process of assimilation that needs to happen. In order to survive, in order to financially survive, you need to take on the culture, the customs, the language, of that culture. And what also happens in the process is that there's this forgetting that happens. There's a separation that happens. And so I grew up feeling that, deeply, deeply feeling that. I just don't belong. And I'm in an education system that's highly colonized, but I'm living in a family that's highly assimilated, and I just don't belong anywhere. And that was the point where I actually started to pray and ask for someone out there, like an ancestor maybe, to start speaking to me and to start to try and guide me, because I was feeling so lost. And this was a point where I started a business. I was kind of feeling this calling towards it. And the more and more I began to tap in to like speaking to this, my ancestry, my bloodline, something really amazing happened. This was about a year into my business, where I was still a bit funny with pricing, was like, oh, here and there kind of thing. Within a week, my mum messaged me to say that she'd found a photograph of some of my great grandparents. And yeah, and I had never thought that I would ever be able to see my great grandparents. We thought all records of them had been lost. No one knew much about them, nothing. And so she sent me this picture, and that was such a moment, such a beautiful moment. It was like, I've been searching for you for so long, and now you found me. Within the same week, I had an uncle in America call me up and say he'd been doing research into another branch of my family and had found a picture of another great grandfather in my lineage. And he had discovered that this great grandfather had been a freedom fighter in India. And the picture that he showed me was a picture of my great grandfather being released from prison. And he had been in prison several times by the British in India. And he'd come out of the prison and he was surrounded by villagers carrying flags. And he was looking directly into the camera, and there was this fire in his eyes. Like there was just this burning fire in his eyes. And Sam, the moment my eyes met his eyes, it was like, I knew. I was like, I know exactly what I'm here to do now. I know that I need to charge my worth. This is more important than what my little stories in my head. Mm-hmm. This is why I was a racial equity campaigner for so long. Like, I wasn't just this weird black sheep. Like, there has been a continuation. My life has had a story before it. Like, there's been this thread, and I found the thread. And I think, yeah, personally for me, just discovering that context has really supported me into this place of, you know what, I will charge, I will claim my prosperity, I will seek out radical wealth, because there is so much of a bigger, wider context to this than just like, oh, I just want extra money. It's not this insipid, shallow thing. There's a real depth to it. So yeah, that's kind of a long-winded answer to your question.
Oh no, but like I'm about to cry. It's beautiful. Oh. Oh man, I want to see the pictures now. I hope you don't post
somewhere on my Instagram. Yeah.
I'll go searching. That's so good. Well, total side comment here for people listening, and I think it does tie in with the ancestral. I think that lost a lot of benefit within our own businesses when we've lost apprentice culture. And I think there actually is totally a phase in business where you're brand new and you just need to charge very little, very, very little, just to get your reps and sets in and just learn and get good. And I think there's a valid stage in business. A lot of people take that way too far, but there is a valid stage in business for charging very little pricing so that you can become amazing at what you do. And you just have tons of experience. So little side note there, but the apprentice culture is ancestral, like doesn't really exist today.
Yes.
So
yes, totally. There is, I think it's so important to center devotion to your craft. Like that has to be the thing that is driving forward your business. And it's not about like, oh, the money is actually telling me how valuable the my craft is. No, 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 your craft is valuable, but you need to be devoted to it, and you need to be in a dance with it, and you need to understand what the spirit of your craft is needing from you in this moment. If you need to just get clients in because you don't necessarily have that experience yet, you need to do that. By the time I got to this point where I saw my great grandfather, the freedom fighter, I had done
Yeah.
hundreds of sessions with
So you're way
clients.
past that point.
Yeah, it's like, you get to a point where you just know, okay, it doesn't make sense anymore for the spirit of my craft to be valued at this price point anymore. It needs to go up because that is what would be in coherence with the spirit of the craft itself.
Mm, totally. Do you
Mm.
think there's ever value in not having connection to your ancestral, at least for a period? The idea I'm thinking of is when I was 31 when I was diagnosed with ADHD, and there's a part of me that was like, oh, I would have been so served by knowing when I was a kid because you get access to different resources. But the other side of me was so happy because I didn't have, like, my brother was on Ritalin, like from a super young age, had this label of learning disability on him, and
Yeah.
which was disempowering. So there, and when we think of, I mean, different in the past, there was like caste systems, and like you only do
Oh
what your
yeah.
father did, and there's almost this
Yeah.
imprisonment that can come with knowledge. So what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why the innovation piece feels so
Mm,
important, because
yeah,
we're not here to replicate the medicine of our ancestors.
yeah.
We are here to re-express and innovate it. And that's a very different thing. We're here to forge our own pathways. And I think it's like with anything, if you're going to use it as another way to imprison yourself, then just leave it. Just don't touch it. Let's not do that. But that is a deeper pattern as
Mhm.
far as I'm concerned. It's not about the ancestral piece, it's not about the modality, it's not about those things, and it's about your own attitude to your own sovereignty and how you are making meaning out of things.
It's
So
also the toxic version of ancestral wisdom. Like you can only be
yes,
this kind of person because that's what your ancestors did. That's like the toxic
yes,
version versus you were
totally.
built up by all of this and now you get to carry some whatever you like forward, but know that this is
Yeah.
building you up.
Totally, yeah, because progression is always about furthering, evolving the pathway. And that often does mean that you're doing things in a way that previous generations disapprove of. That's actually just a sign that you're evolving. That's how evolution has tended to work. There
Mhm.
is this level of disapproval that comes with it, of like, what is she doing? Like, she's not doing it our old way. But that's what innovation essentially is. So I think it's important to be okay with that, to really embrace that actually. And that's definitely part of the work that I do with women of color, because a lot of the time they come to me saying, yeah, my ancestry was did this and did this, and maybe I just need to replicate that medicine and share that. And I'm
Mhm.
like, that's not how this works. You need to find your own pathway. And a lot of the time that will mean that your previous mentors, the medicine keepers that, were part of your lineage, certain people who are a bit more brittle in their thinking may not like it very much,
Yeah.
right? That's a
Well,
sign that you're probably doing all right.
yeah, we talked about hope as this healing emotion, but I think that rage and anger are also super healing emotions and can be
Mhm.
really great fuel in especially this being a public figure, if that's a part of your business path, and specifically around when you can be like, everyone did it this way, and like I say fuck it to that. Like we're actually standing for something over here, and so it's almost
Yes,
like this
yes.
healthy anger around like you guys did it this way, I'm gonna do it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where reimagination lives. I think rage and grief are incredibly mineral rich
Mm.
resources that we can, go into and really learn to alchemize into creative expression. Like they're so fertile.
Oh, I love that term. I haven't heard that, and I love it. That's poet right there. Okay, so as we're closing off for today, I want to see if
Goodness.
you have a response to what what does radical riches mean to you, and like how does wielding
Mm,
wealth for collective change, what does that look like for you?
mm. So I think the piece that really comes up for me when I think of what radical riches is yes, it's about claiming power. Yes, it's about claiming prosperity, but it's doing it from a place of reimagination,
Mhm.
of really choosing to see that we can do this in a different way to the systems that currently shape our world. And that's a really important piece because that is where our creative expression can really begin to flourish. And yeah, so I think for me, the orientation is, yeah, let's claim all of that. Let's do it from a place of joy, of alchemizing grief and rage. Let's do it from a place of authentic expression. Let's do it from a place of being scared because we don't know what this is really going to look like and we don't have all the answers. Let's do it from a place of being willing to be disapproved of and judged and shamed because we have to recognize that we're the ones going first here. The work we do is still very revolutionary. It's still very innovative. It's a very young industry. So yeah, that's like a really long answer, but yeah, that is essentially what I think. Radical riches lives in reimagination,
Mhm.
and reimagination is remembering, and remembering is revolutionary.
Mm. And I'm wondering in your own life, what has actually charging adequate pricing and making more money in your business, what has that unlocked for you?
Mm. I think more than anything, it's really unlocked my capacity to reimagine myself
Mhm.
and to really let go, peel off certain layers of my identity that I had been holding on to. So I really used to be this person who would not allow myself to buy that thing, or, I'd be incredibly minimalist to the point where I had the same dressing gown for 17 years. 17 years. And being able to charge more and receive this kind of flow of money coming in has really connected me to the flow of life and this idea that I get to change with the flow of life. And I actually get to be in this process of allowing myself to shed and rebuild and shed again. And I'm not this static, stagnant thing anymore, which I think is what a lot of our systems can do. Like the kind of 9 to 5 workplace culture and toxic corporate capitalism wants us to just stay very stagnant and kind of stuck. But that's not really what we're here to do as human beings. We're here to be in the flow of life. And I think money, when we get to experience that with money, it begins to shape other aspects of our own identity as well.
Yeah. I mean, so I know that you're into astrology. I don't know if it's Vedic. Do you do Vedic astrology or
No, just
okay.
reverential. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know much about Vedic astrology, so I don't know if this applies to that. But uh, with with planetary magic stuff, Mercury is often associated. I know Jupiter is usually associated with money, but I think Mercury is actually more directly connected. And money is also called currency, which is literally an
Mm,
emotion, fluid,
yes, right.
action-oriented thing. So I think that makes so much sense that when you welcome more money into your life, that of course you're going to be more fluid.
Yes, totally. And that completely shifts your relationship with the world, with the land, with the elements. It completely shifts your relationship with your life and how you understand your time on this planet. So it's pretty profound.
Oh, so good. Oh, well, Heenali, this has been such a blessing to
Mm.
talk with you. I'm so excited we started this series with this. And where can, if people want to go deeper with you, where can they find you on the internet? How they can they hire you? All the things.
Yeah, so the best place to contact me is probably just on Instagram. So I'm at sacred.weaver. You can find me there, and all the things are accessible from that point.
Is the quiz accessible from that point?
Yes, it is.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Okay, go on Instagram. That's where we're now. We'll all go take the quiz. Oh, and any final messages for us or words that you want to leave everyone with?
Yeah, I would love to. Knowing the kinds of people that your listeners would be, I really just want to say to all and any of you that you have been called onto this path because you are part of a great remembering and you are part of a revolution, and you are here to really lead with your heart and to inspire whole new ways of reimagining the world. And I just want to salute you in that. I want to take my hat off to you and just tell you to keep going, because you are doing revolutionary work, and that's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing, but generations after us will remember you, will remember this, and we get to be a part of collective liberation and this arc of justice that is playing out, even though it can be very difficult to see that sometimes in the world that we live in. And yeah, that's just the piece that I'd want to give to people.
Oh, so good. Hear that? Your successful business gets to be collective liberation. So
Yeah. Yeah.